Hey, are you a brick and mortar business type owner, or are you a commercial property owner who leases to businesses like that? And have you ever thought to yourself, how can I avoid an ADA lawsuit? Well, stick around, because I have 3 ways that you can help yourself to avoid an ADA lawsuit. Hi everyone, I'm Steve Twist, CEO of Steve & Twist Consulting, and I am a certified access specialist, certified by the state of California, and also a building plans examiner certified by the International Code Council. A certified access specialist is also known as a CASP. We are certified by the state of California and considered to be experts in ADA and the California Building Code as it applies. Collectively, I have over 30 years experience in these areas. All businesses that provide goods and services to the public or commercial property owners who lease to these types of businesses are all vulnerable. Note, both the property owner and the business owner can be sued in an ADA lawsuit. We've all heard of frivolous ADA lawsuits that put mom and pop shops out of business. Well, this also happens to corporations. What is the ADA versus the California Building Code? Well, the ADA is a federal civil rights law that was put into place back in the early 90s. As of September 26th, 1992, all buildings were required to be as accessible as they possibly could. A lot of people think that if you have an existing building that was built before 1991, 92, then they are grandfathered in. Well, this is a myth. It's an old wives' tale. Don't buy into it. Don't fall into that trap. The California Building Code, on the other hand, is a California law, a state law, and that only gets triggered whenever you alter a commercial building or build something brand new. So it does not apply to a single family residence. And there are other exceptions also for commercial buildings depending on the use of the building. The ADA has required all buildings to be accessible regardless of when they were built. They call out what's known as readily achievable barrier removal. Readily achievable barrier removal is basically things that can be fixed to make the facility usable to the disabled that doesn't require too much effort or expense. That's kind of wide open and open-ended. That it should be defined better than that, but it's not. And so if you have not done anything to your property and not removed any barriers or looked into it, did some research, found out what you needed to do, if you haven't done that and you end up in a lawsuit, then the judge tends to look at you like, well, you haven't done anything, and you don't want to find yourself in that place. The ADA is an ongoing law. The California Building Code, on the other hand, is only triggered, and other building codes in other states, by the way, that apply. That's only triggered as if you build a new building and or you modify your existing building. All right, so enough of the chit chat. Let's get to it. Tip number 1, learn what ADA features are. Learn what ADA is concerned with and walk your property. This goes for the exterior as well as the interior. I recommend starting with the exterior. The reason is because you're most vulnerable by drive-through frivolous litigants. They'll go by and just drive through your parking lot, see something wrong, because they know the law, and you should too. They know the law, and they'll go through your parking lot, find something wrong, and then they send you a nice little letter that you don't want to get. And a matter of fact, you can see a lot of that from Google Earth and Google Maps. Sometimes they don't even have to leave their house and they can send you a letter. So it's in your best interest to learn what it is that they're looking at. And if you get overwhelmed, seek the advice of a consultant. So when you're walking your property, you want to look for things like, can a wheelchair get from the public way to the entrance of my building? Is that path of travel compliant? It might have ramps, it might have stairs, it might have a number of things that need to be considered. Note that you might have a sidewalk that you don't even know is a ramp, but any walkway that exceeds 5% slope in the direction of travel is considered and defined in the ADA and the CBC as a ramp. And once it's a ramp, then it requires handrails and landings and all kinds of requirements. Do I have accessible parking spaces? Are they compliant? Do I have enough of them? There are 10 different things that can be, over 10 different things that can be wrong with an accessible parking space, like this one right there. Is the parking space marked with the proper signs? There can be over, I think there's like 5 different requirements for the signs to mark an accessible parking space. As you can see, this can get overwhelming really quickly. But don't worry, we're going to be going over these things in more detail in future videos. Please click the like, the subscribe, and then the notifications button, because that really helps us and supports us to keep on doing these types of videos to inform you. Once you've watched the exterior, then it's time to look at the interior. Are your doors okay? Are your doors too hard to open? If they have a closer on them, do they close too fast? Is the hardware, the opening hardware, is it correct? Can't have knobs. Anything that requires twisting, pinching, grabbing, you can't, that is not allowed. It has to be lever action or just push freely. There's a number of rules actually that go along with doors. Are your service counters the right height? Do you have one of those lowered sections of your service counter, but it's all covered with clutter that makes it not usable? That's a violation. There's simple things that you can do by keeping certain things like that counters clean, keeping trash cans out of the way of doors, a number of things that you can do to just protect yourself, because somebody shows up at your store and all of a sudden there's a trash can in the way of the door that the able-bodied could walk around easily, but a wheelchair has to move it out of the way or gets difficult. That can be really difficult and cause you all kinds of problems. Are you a diner? Do you have tables and chairs to serve people, dining rooms, tables and chairs? Do you have the correct number that are accessible? Do you know what those accessible requirements are for tables? There's probably, I don't know, I'd say 4 or 5 different requirements for a table. Do you have compliant restrooms? That's the big one. There are over 50 requirements to make a restroom compliant. Any one of those can cause you problems. You can see how complicated it gets. These are all items we'll go over in more detail in future videos, so please stay tuned. Tip number 2. Are the items in tip number 1 in good condition? Are your walkways cracked and in disrepair? Are they raised up from roots from trees, raised up panels so there's different elevations from panel to panel? Those not only are an accessibility issue, they also cause you a liability as a trip hazard. Do your accessible parking spaces look like this or like this? Are your restrooms also used as storage areas? Oftentimes that happens, particularly in convenience stores or retail outlets. They don't have enough room for storage, so they'll start sticking stuff in the bathrooms, and then it clutters up all the maneuvering or clearances around toilets and sinks that a wheelchair user needs to be able to use the facility. Are your paths of travel to the restrooms, to other exits throughout the facility, are they wide enough? Are they cluttered with a bunch of stuff? That happens, like, again, a lot in convenience stores and retail outlets. You just got to keep that stuff clear. You got to find another way to store stuff. Again, that's something you could do for yourself to avoid an ADA lawsuit. Many of the things that you can look at for yourself are things that are in disrepair, stuff that just isn't maintained. People forget about it, don't think about it, and therefore it never gets fixed. And here's some examples. Tip number 3. Obviously, the best way to protect yourself is to have a compliant site. Very few of them are, in my experience. I have inspected a lot of sites, and every time I can find something that could be a potential litigant issue. A CASP inspection will provide you with a comprehensive report detailing every single ADA or building code violation that you have. By building code violation, I mean in terms of accessibility. You also get protections under the law. If you get a CASP inspection that is according to what they call CRASCA, which is Construction Related Accessibility Standards Compliance Act. Well, that's a mouthful, isn't it? Anyway, if you get an inspection according to a CRASCA report, then you get quite a few benefits. One, you can get status as a qualified defendant, which reduces statutory damages. Without a CASP inspection, damages can be up to $4,000 per visit by the plaintiff. It used to be $4,000 per violation, which could add up tremendously quickly, but they've changed that now. So now it's $4,000 per visit. But oftentimes I've seen lawsuits where the litigant doesn't even leave their house. Second, you get a 90-day stay of the proceedings, which means you get to meet with a judge, the other party, and you get an opportunity to work things out. Third, your statutory damages can be reduced from $4,000 per incident to $1,000 per incident if you can show that you've satisfied all the issues in the complaint within a 60-day period. Lastly, if you get a CASP inspection, you'll have 120 days to fix everything. If you can get that done in 120 days, then you're free from damages. If you're found liable in an ADA lawsuit, you're going to be responsible not only for your lawyer's fees, but the plaintiff's lawyer's fees as well. For more information regarding CASP inspections and how that can be beneficial to you, please visit our website at stephentwist.com. I'll have that link down below. Also, you can visit the Division of the State Architect. They have a lot of information there as well. I'll link that below as well. If you stuck this out this long, I tip my hat to you. Clearly, a fully compliant site is the best way to avoid damages and lawsuits. If that's not the case, then tip number 3 is my advice. There are, however, a lot of things you can do for yourself. Be proactive, research the necessary requirements, and maintain your existing conditions. Don't let your parking lot get faded out. Don't let your signs fade out or be vandalized and damaged. Repair that stuff immediately. I know this all probably seems overwhelming, and it is. I recommend visiting stephentwist.com. There's a lot of information there about CASP inspections and the other services that we offer. Also, the people that we serve, architects, engineers, property managers, property owners, business owners, and a number of other people. And also, stay tuned for future videos as we will go through all these things in more detail. As always, please like, subscribe, push the notification button. All that really helps us keep the ability to keep this all going. And we'd love to continue to share. We have more videos coming that are going to go into all this stuff in more detail, and we're looking forward to seeing you then. We'll see you next time. Stay vigilant, stay informed.